My property tax went from $15,000 a year to $91,000 a year.
Damn.
Damn. Yeah. Can you think about that for a moment?
Yeah.
So this family, they lived right near the beach in Florida. This guy's older too. He's probably looks like early 70s. His grandfather bought the place way back in like the 1920s for nothing, and had been in the family forever. And they did a simple remodel on it by fixing the roof and adding like a front foyer when you walked in. And, they added some structural things for the hurricanes and whatnot for insurance purposes. And when they got the new tax bill, it went from 15,000 a year, which is still tremendously a
That's
lot.
crazy.
15,000, that's crazy in itself. Like, that's absurd. You
To
already
put
own
that,
your property.
well, put that in perspective. I think the place I'm here is like a third of an acre, and he's paying in taxes what they say approximately my place is worth. So that's
Yeah.
like buying one of my houses every year. Every year they're just buying another property, but they're not. They're just giving it away. And isn't that like the essential of it? The better your life quality is, the more the vampires feel like that you should have to be bled.
Yeah. And at what point do you just say, all right, you know what? I could rent a place for 5 grand a month and not even pay property tax, let everybody worried about the upkeep and all that things that you need to fix the house. And I'm just from this point going to rent for the rest of my life. Like, that would be way cheaper in their situation to do something like that. Even
Yeah,
at 5,000 a month renting, it would be far cheaper than their 91,000 for property taxes. Plus, apparently that home, that had been bought for like under $100,000 back then is worth something in the, $4 million range now.
yeah, but what happens if you get debanked or citizened, as
Yeah,
far as the
right.
financial stuff? Then you can't
Yeah.
rent nowhere. Then where are you at? You're out there with those guys with the fentanyl on the corner.
Yeah. Wow. And again, how scary is that where you might be denied access to your funds after you're forced to sell because, again, this property tax is too high. Like, really, who can afford 91? Because you got to realize after 10 years, that's almost $1 million in property tax. What if you hold on to the house for another 30 years? That's 3 million in property taxes. I mean, is your house going to keep accruing value through those 30 years? I doubt it. I bet there's going to be a crash.
Right. And then not only that, it's like, the more you better your life, and then the more that they tax, they have it like if you actually got debanked or something, they could, like you said, they could just stop your money flow to basically kick you out of the house. And isn't that what's going across? And we've been talking about that for years. Is really that's the plan to end private property. They want everyone on that metered month to month, everything from not only where you're occupying space to your health to what you eat, whether or not you have entertainment, all of it.
And your monthly, this subscription service for using all the software, which you used to be able to buy one time, it's also getting ridiculous where they want you to pay 300 a year for this, 150 a year for this, 80 a year for this, $10 a month for that, which is 120 bucks. But, if you got 20 of those services, then you're spending that much per year just to have what you need for work. It's just kind of gotten ridiculous where you could have bought all those things, installed them on your computer, and now they want you to go to a monthly or a yearly subscription. And especially with this Microsoft garbage too, then they want you to have 365 where you need a subscription on. Hey, I just want to buy Microsoft Windows, install that thing on my thing, and be done with it, man. It's
Right.
just it's to the point of everything is nickel and dimed milked. It's getting expensive in the States. If you haven't noticed it, it's getting noticeably expensive now for everything. You just can't. Like, we went to the store the other day and we bought some potatoes, carrots, onions, got a couple bottles of wine. I know, indulging. But the rest of it was pretty much like food. Got some soda waters. I mean, the bubblies, just a regular lemon lime soda water. And the bill was like $102. And we looked in the cart like, what? There's nothing really in here. Like, we thought something got double rung up, but we thought it was definitely wrong. It was like, that can't be right. And it was. And we were both shocked. Like, what the hell? That for that 102? now even up at the point going, wow, that's getting really ridiculous just for the very basics. So at what point does it come where, people are not going to be able to, continue down this road much further here in America at
It's
the hyperinflating prices. So then, add in all this switcheroo that's going on. And speaking of food, I wanted to come back to that thing. I wrote a note before we went on break. Colorado is trying to pass two, not one, but two different legislative bills to stop farming in Colorado. So I'm curious, you've heard of this, you've seen it, you're right next door to it. So well, what are they talking about over where you're at about this seemingly insane type of legislation? They want the farmers to then donate their land for like green zones or something also after this.
Yeah, well, they actually, we've already separated into two countries. I've kind of touched on it. You have left leaning paradises basically for those thoughts and ideas of communism. That's what it is. But think about what they did is they allowed a lot of people to get into the fad of moving to Colorado to be left alone in the Rocky Mountains so that they could farm, live off grid, do all of these things. And then when they get all the population in there that had to spend excess amount of monies for permits and all of these different things, even to get their homes and their homesteads built, they had to follow the local, everything and pay everybody, and everything had to be a tradesman that came, and then you get certified to be able to take a dump on your own property or whatever it is, or have electricity. Then when they got them in there, then they plan on bumping their tax, like you were talking about with that other article, because they have beautiful land, and now they've put infrastructure on it. So now it's usable land, and then they want to tax it, but then they want to stop all of these independent people who farm not only marijuana, but lots of food in this big, giant grow zone that's in between the, east side of the Rockies where you get the real highs. There's like a big bowl in Colorado, and it's pristine farming land. It's all the junk that is run down from the mountains and filled up the valleys and stuff. So now they want to stop that, because that is a place that people have tried to run from the system. And it's the same in New Mexico and California and Oregon and Washington. First, you can't use the water. Now you can't put seeds in the ground. But the corporations can. They can do that. And I think that's what's going to happen is you're going to see a massive amounts of corporations try to buy up the farmland in these rural areas in all of these left-leaning states, but not just there. They'll move the demographics over and then start doing it in the red states too. And it's not just the United States. You also have China trying to buy up farmland as much as they can do. And they know eventually they're going to have to sell that land, but who? Is the question. Who do they sell it back to in this sphere of things? Would it be BlackRock? Would it be someone else like that? Would it be Bill Gates, who's another person that's, a billionaire that seems to want to buy up all the farmland as well? And then, it gets into this multi-decade theft of the Americas, which, believe it or not, is happening from North America down to South America. And it's been happening probably since the late 80s, where you have tycoons, politicians, government, buying up the natural resources of an area, like T. Boone Pickens buying all the water, taking control of, like trains. And then you got Warren Buffett, who has another aquifer he bought. You have the Bushes that bought up all the aquifers in South America, like Argentina and stuff. So all of these master manipulator players saw all of this stuff coming 50 years ago, to where we get to this metered system where no one owns property. You will own nothing, but you'll be happy because you'll have access to the metaverse that they told you was important, with fashions and entertainment and, the latest trend of medicine. We've already seen that roll through the social sphere. The question is how hard do they have to make people live before they give in? So like, what will they do to these Colorado farmers when they all say, oh, no, we're not doing that. I don't care if a small elite in Denver are, far, they want to save the planet or go green or whatever it is. It really doesn't have anything to do with the 90+% of property owners in the rest of the state that don't even live that lifestyle. They're not around those people. They don't live in the city. They have they're out there dealing with bear and cougar and stuff on their property, eating their animals and trying to, fork out a life. And what's really funny about that is that's been an ongoing thing in Colorado. because you have to go back to the mountain men. The mountain men would carve out a piece of property there. They'd have a lodge there, and then their grandchildren sell their property for millions and millions of dollars. So they get rich, even though their grandparents had to cut out a life literally like a mountain man and cut down trees and make cabins and start farming up there. You're seeing a new wave of that. So there's been a bunch of people move there so that they could live like they want to live, but then the authoritarian government is now catching up with them, and it seems like that's happened everywhere. It's like reverse gentrification, kind of, or not reverse gentrification, but the same concept where you just go into an area and you buy up everything and then you change the way it is. That's what a lot of people in Texas are saying. Don't come out in California, my Texas, because that same thing is happening. Matter of fact, it's happening in your state. The people that live in Nashville, Knoxville, and Memphis don't really speak for the vast majority of like farmers and people that live in rural areas in the majority of the state. Yet that's where the demographics that votes and changes the concept of laws, from guns to anything. All of these social arguments that they have out there in the background while they're taking all the property and consolidating all the wealth. People will be fighting over, what color they like till the end, until they're sitting out on the street penniless. And that's something our forefathers told us. I mean, I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know there's, several quotes from "Here's your republic if you can keep it" to, trading in your plowshares, trading in your guns for plowshares. Then you don't have nothing to protect that farm. And that's why, you get some of that ancient, I guess, advice. I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a garden in a warrior. Garden in a warrior. And I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, is what I meant to say, not in a warrior.
You could repair all the damaged fences across Ukraine, then, I guess, and help them come back and get their 30 million tons of grain exported again. Oh, wait, that's offline. My bad. So, you look at these wars as a purposeful way to remove food production from the planet, also driving shortages and increasing prices for the bigs. Because remember, during the vid years, your little peon private business was, just wrecking ball through the economy. They could have cared less about you and your small family business, something you build up, again, multi-generation. You were not essential, peon. Only the bigs, only the Costco's were, only the Walmarts were essential. You're selling the same goods, the same exact services and the products in the store, yet at a smaller amount of turnover. Yet you were non-essential, but Walmart was essential. The different types of supermarkets, there were, not speaking of Knoxville, there's a couple different ethnic supermarkets over there. One's more like Asian, one's more Indian, and then one is a blend that includes Middle East, and you get a whole bunch of mixing between of those, and it's like all three squeezed together. But there's a variance of these ethnic supermarkets around. They all had to close, but who else? I'm trying to think of the supermarkets that were allowed to stay open. They were on the stock exchange. Again, my brain's just misfiring this late at night. A Kroger. They were allowed to stay open, but the very same thing: the lettuces, the vegetables, the canned goods, etc. Eigels. They were allowed to stay open when all these mom and pops had to close. Same exact products, the same exact need, essential need, food. But nope, they had to close. And the police were going around, not so much out here. I had a couple of people visit, and when we were at the small town where I live in, we went down to this little coffee shop down there. They were just baffled. They came from over in New Mexico, out your way, chasing those guys up at Hemp Lucid. And, they were kind of out west there, and they'd been delving around in California and Arizona and thing. And then when they got out here, they're like, I'm baffled, man. It's like stepping back in time. Not a single people wearing masks. You might get a couple tourists, but like nobody's wearing masks on the streets. Coffee shops didn't even ask you to wear a mask going in. They were just so blown away by nobody even asking anything about masks or wearing masks out here. I was like, wow, we just stepped back in the past. And they were telling me, yeah, it's a cool little mountain town, but everywhere you go out west, they were just voracious and ferocious to get you to wear those stupid face diapers, you know. But things are changing, and you can see it. The gentrification's here, at least in this little tiny town where I'm at. Brand new community centers already planned. They've already excavated part of it up near. Then a couple new little tiny supermarkets. Uh, as you go out of town a little bit, they have like 200 motorcycle glamping sites. They're trying to bring this town up to like a world class mountain town. There's a little tiny hotel attached to a coffee shop. It had like 10 rooms. Mom and pop established. A Hilton Hotel just bought it. You got wood fired pizza ovens that are made for like downtown San Francisco popping up in the middle of this place. You know, it's really starting to, like you say, that regentrification where they're bringing all this stuff in to run the property values up and make it into this like, wow, got to be here destination for everybody. And insurance rates are up, property prices are up. It doesn't matter if it's car insurance or home insurance, all up and up and up. At what point doesn't it go up anymore? That's all. We're kind of at this rollover point where at some point something is breaking. And what if people just start to say no? Like you said, the Colorado farmers, what if they say no to anything? Well, I don't think there's going to be really enough police or, you know, official figures to come out to get them to move off the property or survey out there. A lot of this is just done under, like, say, blind compliance. You just think the threat of somebody coming out there to do it. But I think if there's enough across the state, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, then they're really the power is with the people that there's nothing for them to do. And if they were to get tarred and feathered and run off like they did in the old days, because I tell you, we're putting up some new steps up here and we're tarring the bottom of the 4x4s before we put them in the concrete down there. And the concept of tarring and feathering somebody has just come to new light for me.
Well, it's
And
funny
that
because
stuff is so sticky, man. To tar and feather somebody, oh my gosh.
it is true that people only, they'll only get away with what people will put up with. The problem is people have already been kind of I don't know, programmed to do this. So, like where I live, if you decided that you were going to put up a new shed, even if you don't live in the city, like say you live way out in the county, they have drones flying around to see how often your property changes. So, if they outlawed farming on it, they would just do the same tactics. They would go to a centralized road, they would fly out drones, they would compare the pictures to last spring or last summer, and then they would show up. But they don't just show up like some nerdy guy with a clipboard. That might be the first time, but the second time, they come with guns. They come with guns because you didn't do what they said. And so that's where it'll get into that. But I don't think that any of that literally will happen before the reset. That'll be all stuff that starts to be implemented after the reset.
After the reset, yeah.
Enforcement. I don't think they're going to mess with anybody. It's the same reason that they've been scared to really pull any kind of too outlandish stuff about the Second Amendment, because they know there's a population that will say no, and they want to be the ones that tell you what time revolution happens, not you. They don't want, the people of an area to decide, hey, we've had enough, because whenever they do that, we know that that works out for the people temporarily. But they like to decide when it is. That's why they do these social manufacturing things, which I think they're doing right now, actually, never letting a bad thing go to waste. You can pick out some stuff in the headlines right now that will be heating up this summer. And, that's kind of brings back the point. I don't think there's any way that you're going to stop the reset or the transhuman system. There's only going to be, the only way to get out of that is if a large enough amount of people refuse to live that style of life. If they say, no, we're not doing that. I mean, the Amish without guns have done a pretty good job for a long period of time fighting off the forces that would tell them to live different. And they've done it in a peaceful way. And the way that they did it is because there's a lot of them. There are a lot of them, and they just say no whenever they do that. Or they'll, if they get caught in a corner, they'll comply, but they continue on living their life as they would. And it's weird. It's like the government is kind of powerless against that when people just go, yeah, whatever, but they still do whatever they're doing. And the same way will be like that. You can put regulations. That's not going to stop me from growing tomato plants. You can, do this or that, but I'm still going to find a way to not pay for water if I want to drink it, if I need it. The only way they could really do that is after they've seized up all the property and had everyone volunteer into their metered system. And we're almost there. The majority of the population, I think, is either powerless or dumb or uneducated, to where they're just falling into it because it's the way that they grew up. The change they can't see. You can think about people now that were born after the 2000s that are already out there drinking in the bars. And I'm thinking, oh wow, you know what I'm saying? So it's easy to transform a next generation over to a new idea or just replace them because, well, you took out a vast majority of the military age people of a certain group, and then all you have left are the fogies there that know how to do stuff for whoever's left. So the only
Yeah,
way
well,
they
think
could
about the
really pull
vid
that
too, and
off is World War.
well, think about how many people are not around in this realm any longer after the 2020 and 2021, 22 experiments.
Oh yeah, and that brought me up. How quick was everybody? You reminded me when you were talking about all the stores, how quick everybody got to giving up and getting rid of the 24-hour system, except for convenience stores that sell like gas and tobacco or alcohol. Nothing's open past 9 o'clock, and I found that that's not just here. Everywhere I went so far,
Everywhere it's
traveled in the
closed.
past couple of years, they're shut at 9 o'clock. It's over. Curfew without making a curfew. Less products without telling you. There's less time to shop, which means um, people have less money. Obviously they made them have less money, and then they shrank the amount of stuff that they could get in the amount of time that they could do it. So only people on 24-hour lifestyles are people in government or people that literally have a specific job that makes them work a night shift or something like that. Everything else is closed, shut down.